back to Sunshine Strategies Radio. My name's Jen McMillan, and I am your host for the podcast, as well as the founder of Sunshine Strategies, a rural organizing nonprofit here in central Illinois. Every week here on the podcast, we shine a light on what's really happening in our communities, in our country, and our democracy. We try to make sense of the headlines in a way that families can understand, and we talk about how ordinary people, just like you and me, can build a better future right where we are. Because democracy isn't something we vote for every 4 years. It's something we should practice every day. Now, when I founded Sunshine Strategies, I had a simple but powerful goal: to be physically present in the communities that I serve. Now, that may sound small, but it really isn't. It means long drives, flat tires, bad coffee, and sitting at uncomfortable picnic tables in the middle of a state park. But it also means something deeper: building trust. Because no matter how good your ideas are, if you don't show up, really show up, people don't believe that you're in it for them. So I want to tell you a little story about my project out at St. Chris Lake State Park. Again, it's still not finished. We still have not gotten a hold of Commonwealth Edison, but that's a whole nother episode update later. But I went out to St. Chris and I just started to use the park as my office. It is a really beautiful place to just sit and walk. And I was taking advantage of it because I can work from pretty much anywhere with my laptop and my phone. However, when I first started going to St. Chris and stopping by the park office because they have the best restroom, I was met with some skepticism. Jamie and Eric, there's a story about this in an earlier podcast episode, but it took me about a year of showing up at this one location to build trust enough to start working on this project. Now, this is something that Abraham Lincoln knew instinctively. Long before he became president, he too traveled the old 8th Judicial Circuit right here in Illinois. He didn't just argue cases, he stayed in inns, ate at local tables, and listened. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept him tethered to the lives of everyday people, and it shaped how he thought about justice, law, and leadership. That kind of contact, that direct tether between public service and the people it's meant to serve, that's what makes a representative democracy breathe. But here's the hard truth. We have been cutting that tether quietly and deliberately for decades. And the knife we've been using is called gerrymandering. Now, gerrymandering has been in the news here lately, especially in Texas and California. We'll get to that later. But gerrymandering is what happens when politicians draw district maps to protect their own power, not to represent real communities. It's not just about these funny-looking lines on a map. It's about silencing voices. It's about making some votes matter more than others. And it is a bipartisan addiction. For years, it really was the Republican Party leading the charge, especially after the 2010 census and their Red Map campaign. They locked in these maps so skewed that entire states were functionally immune to the will of the people. But now the Democratic Party is, revving up the same game. Here in Illinois, where I live, and in California, where others look for progress, we're watching Democrats do the very thing they once condemned. They're using redistricting as a political weapon, not a tool for fairness or service. And when both major parties treat maps as war strategies, the casualty is trust in democracy itself. So what does this mean? Now, I'm not here to argue with the tactics at this point. I really believe that we are in a war for the future of our country, and that Democrats are utilizing this tool in that war. We're going to use whatever we can, and the political parties are the armies. However, this means that we have to take the pen back when we, the people, regain control of our country from those messing it up. After this current debacle is over, we need independent redistricting commissions, made up of citizens, not career politicians. We need maps that reflect how people actually live, not who their neighbors are, where they send their kids to school, not just where they go for groceries, but the whole picture. And most of all, we need to remember that democracy doesn't happen behind closed doors. It happens out in the open, where people can see each other, argue, agree, and move forward together. I don't drive all of these miles just because I like cornfields and county fairs. I do. But I also do it because I believe, like Abe Lincoln did, that democracy is relational. It's built face to face, story by story, mile by mile. And when we sever the link between people and power, we lose not just representation, we lose the republic. All right, and now for your weekly news roundup for national developments, state updates, and local Central Illinois news stories from July 25th through August 1st, 2025. In national news, the US and EU have reached a major trade agreement featuring 15% reciprocal tariffs and a $600 billion investment commitment. This deal aimed to resolve rising trade tensions and boost cooperation across sectors like energy, auto, and tech. And the Trump administration is pushing sweeping new tariffs on multiple trading partners as of July 31st, expanding on his economic agenda. At the same time, his DOGE agency is pursuing AI-based deregulation, cutting half of federal regulations. This comes alongside disputes over renovation cost estimates at the Fed. And experts are warning of a dangerous debt spiral here in the United States. Interest payments are approaching Social Security spending levels, and fiscal year 2025 saw a new $3.4 trillion budget proposal. These trends could mean future tax hikes, spending cuts, or default risks. Here, more closely to home, on July 25th, Governor J.B. Pritzker stepped into the national redistricting debate that we were talking about at the top of the episode, criticizing Texas GOP efforts and signaling Illinois Democrats may redraw districts mid-decade to prepare for 2026. Though Illinois can't gain seats, Illinois may reshape its districts strategically. And the national president emeritus of AFGE, Bobby Harnage, who was a major public figure, passed away this week. His leadership focused on protecting federal and DC workers' rights during periods of great transformation and made a huge impact on labor negotiations in state government. So our thoughts are with his family, and thank you so much for your service, sir. Here in Central Illinois, even closer to our home, the Central Illinois Emergency Expo, scheduled for July 30th in Grand Prairie, had to be canceled due to our severe weather. If it was something that you were really looking forward to, unfortunately, it won't be rescheduled in 2025, and we are hoping that it comes back in 26. And if you suffer from any respiratory illnesses, please take care. Much of Central Illinois is experiencing continued smoke, slightly cooler temperatures as a wildfire haze has drifted across the region. While visible air quality alerts were issued for neighboring states, local health officials remind residents to monitor your kids with asthma and reduce your outdoor activity when needed. So as we wrap up, families should watch on how the new trade deals are coming along and how the economic trends might influence prices, jobs, and inflation in the coming months. And here in Illinois, our political decisions like redistricting and union developments may affect representation in public services all the way up to the national level. And that's going to wrap it up for Sunshine Strategies Radio this week. I am so glad that you stopped by and joined me for a little bit. Please stay safe this weekend, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye, guys.